Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm Sal.
I'm Ben.
So I had a question about the local comic book store because everybody always has questions about how to save it or how to make it better. And I have been spoiled because I've had more positive experiences at a local comic book store than negative. And so for me, I'm like, well, it's not really a broken system. I don't really see...
it should work.
Yeah, exactly. You have a unique experience because I have never worked in retail, ever.
Right.
I worked for a comic book store for like 8 months, once.
It's a very shielded kind of view.
I think so, yeah. I always wanted to work for a video store. You have worked for a video store.
I have worked for a video store.
You have advanced knowledge, I think, and this is why I wanted to bring it up, for what I like to call exclusive retail.
So, I don't know if many of the viewers actually know this, but I work for Costco, one of the big wholesalers in the country, and actually now getting into other branches of the world too.
Exclusive retail. It's where you need a membership. And, you know, of course, there's also the trappings of, like, buying in bulk. I pitched this idea to Tiffany. She was like, so what, you're going to buy your comics in bulk? I'm like, no, the whole other experience of shopping at Costco. It's not just getting 16 jars of mayonnaise for one low price. It's about, like, the experience of being a member of kind of like an exclusive club, or like or making the retail experience more of a membership kind of experience.
Okay.
And the local comic book store, the reason why I'm bringing this together is because the local comic book store is all about community, and it's about not necessarily membership, but there is some measure.
I think when you go to a comic book store where you recognize people, you know the owner and things like that, that is sort of a membership. It is a social membership.
Not only that, but also, of course, when you set up like a pull list with a local comic book store, and they're on the hook for holding inventory for you, for all intents and purposes, for an extended period of time, and they're on the hook for that, financially speaking, I think that's more or less a membership at this point, especially if they can call on debts and so forth.
Right.
So I'm wondering, is there any viability to applying something like the Costco model to the local comic book store?
Now, I'm not a representative for Costco.
No.
Let me start off by saying that as a disclaimer. I am not super knowledgeable about
the inner
exactly
workings.
How the inner workings go. I have a broad knowledge of how the warehouses make money and how the company works on as a whole.
You've been behind the counter, and that's really like that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for like boots on the ground experience. I'm not looking for the PR kind of like inner workings. I'm looking for more like from what your vantage point has been as far as retail goes, particularly through the lens of Costco. Can anything be learned and applied to the local comic book store?
I think it can. I think there are aspects of Costco that would be helpful to the comic book community and the local comic book stores.
Okay.
Having a membership certainly boosts revenue because, first off, that's what Costco makes most of its revenue on, is the actual membership. It's not about the things they sell as much. There is some profit there, but mostly it's about people paying to shop inside the warehouse.
Gotcha.
The benefit is why would you pay to shop someplace? Well, members get certain privileges, being able to return things pretty much as needed. They guarantee 100% satisfaction with your product. So if you're not satisfied with it, Costco will either return it or replace it with something to make it better. They want to take care of the member because keeping the member means keeping their membership fee and keeping the revenue coming in for the business so they can branch out, so they can have more warehouses. It helps them to make the members happy.
Now, it's interesting because as you were describing the paid membership component, which is more or less what everyone knows about Costco, buying in bulk and you got to pay to be a member.
Right.
When it comes to the local comic book store or even chain comic book stores, like Midtown, for example, there is no pay to enter. There is no barrier to entry. And of course, everybody says there should be fewer barriers to entry to get into a local comic book store because fewer people are shopping at local comic book stores or comic shops in general. So why would we create
why would you add
another barrier?
Another gate to get through?
Exactly. Why would one do that? And I have made the same point about Costco, but like you've made the point, it's an international company. It's doing pretty okay. They've been around for X amount of years, and they don't look like they're changing anytime soon.
Well, if it was just based on membership fee is the key to success, the Costco would fail. And that's the thing. You can't just have it be, well, we'll charge people a membership fee to come in.
And that's it. We've made our money.
There, done.
Yeah.
If you're not rewarding the people that are the members, if you're not rewarding the employees, if you're not taking care of the investors that are taking care of the company, then it's not going to work. So if you're not fulfilling those areas, a membership fee system is doomed to fail.
Exactly. So because the product at a local comic book store is comics, collectibles, cards, etc.
Right. Just like the product at any retail place is what they sell.
What they
could
sell.
be clothing, it could be food, it could be sundries, it's whatever you need.
Exactly. But when you create the environment of you're paying a membership fee, you're expected to get, like you pointed out, benefits.
Right.
Now, what kind of benefits could a comic shop offer for having an exclusive membership?
One thing that I could think of is having the ability to return comics if you do not like them. You try something out, you go out on a whim, and you purchase something and saying, you know what, this really wasn't for me, I'd like to bring it back.
Right.
Getting your money back or being able to exchange it for another comic book of your choosing, I think would be huge.
I think so too, and it's funny because returnability is a sore spot at the comic book store retail level because some comics are refundable, some comics aren't. I've never seen, though I think I've heard of, instances in which, and it's very rare, a customer is unsatisfied with their book outside of it being like a quality control issue, like it being it's misprinted or it's damaged.
Right, and that should be the standard with every
across
business.
the board. No membership fees.
If there's something with an issue with your product, you should be able to bring it back. Period.
Agreed. But I do kind of dig the idea, and of course, you are kind of at the mercy of the customer at that point. You know, I didn't like this, and it's like if there's a constant turnover, you know, you're going to lose revenue because you're going to keep ordering these books for people, and then you're going to constantly be on the hook to return them. You do make up a little bit of that revenue through the membership fee.
Think about this. Think about the fact that with a lot of these hobby places, you're selling sometimes questionable products at a higher markup to make up for the fact that fewer people are buying it. People don't want to overspend for something that they don't feel like that they're getting a good deal on.
Right.
But if you pay a yearly membership fee and then you charge less for the items, where you're still making a little bit of a profit, but you're not focused on making the profit off of that.
That's not the entire way that you're paying rent.
Right. A majority of Costco's profit is from membership fees.
Right.
I think if they released their numbers, I'm pretty sure they did, it was around 85%.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Here's another thing. If you're able to, as a local comic book shop, or as this new membership fee system is in place, if you're able to return a certain amount of merchandise to the supplier and get credit for that, it helps the business. It helps because if you can guarantee that you're going to push more product for the supplier, and you're ordering more from the supplier, being able to return a smaller percentage of that can be negotiated in where you're at least getting credit for certain things that are returned to you or that may not be sold.
Oh, because I was thinking it's actually not bad if the comic shop owner is making exception, because like the comic shop owner can't make a lot of returns, or at the very least they're on the hook for what they purchased, and there's a lot of limitations on what can be refunded.
Right.
But if you are on the hook for the refunds and you basically say, in our store you can return your product for, you know, basically any reason, but it has to be for a reasonable, understanding reason.
Now, and this is a gray area, which you will get into with comics. Why didn't you like it? Well, I didn't enjoy the story as much. The art changed. Or I expected to see Flash more in this book.
Exactly.
And he wasn't really featured.
It's books. It's arbitrary. But at the same time, like Barnes & Noble and any other bookstore chain that still exists doesn't care whether you can send the book back for any reason as long as it's in good condition. Of course, with the comic book,
they're going to try and resell it.
Exactly. They're going to try and resell it. But of course, in the case of a local comic book store, they know they're not going to resell it. So in the case of opening up memberships and having a carrot be you can refund your books, you can return your books for a refund, the comic shop owner's on the hook for the refund. But that's okay.
Well, here's a question for you. And this is something I think would be very interesting to see. Not making membership fee a requirement.
No, of course.
But say it's an option. Say someone pays a certain membership fee throughout the year to shop at that comic book store, then they're allowed to return books.
Yes.
Or they also have access to a specified group of books that have been returned at a highly discounted rate. Now imagine this. All the books that are able to be returned by the people who have a membership essentially go into a bin.
Right.
And in that bin, in that those long boxes,
Right.
you're able to go through at a certain point as a member and pick up any issue you want for a quarter.
Right. Yeah. I mean, the reality is, after a comic shop has reached a certain date with their unsold inventory, they got to come up with creative ways to get rid of them. Usually they sell them online or they sell them at conventions. But of course, there's no guarantee you're going to sell them, and you're certainly not going to sell them for what you paid for them.
Nope.
So you're going to sell them at a discount.
You got to mark it down, and you got to give a good deal to people.
And maybe you have a special sale, and I've seen a lot of comic shops do that, where they take a lot of their unsold inventory, they group it into collections that they've achieved over a period of a year, and then turn it into like a free comic book day super sale, where yes, there's free comics, but also a lot of our backlog is heavily discounted.
Right.
And you can still allow for that, but also I really liked the exclusive membership is not so exclusive as all that. Like, you don't pay to enter. You're not, there's no bouncer. There's no receipt checker.
Anyone can come in and shop.
Anybody can shop, but
members get certain privileges that others don't.
And I've heard that there are privileges for customers in comic shops who have like pull lists or who do pre-orders and whatnot. But I do like the idea of kind of like officiating it and being like, no, you're a member of this comic shop, of our shop, and as such you get access to privileges and perks that are not just exclusive to our store and exclusive to like the experience, but also you're guaranteed them.
Right.
You know? It's not just kind of like, oh, is Barry working today?
Or this one person has a absolutely enormous pull list. We're going to make one exception for that person alone. No, if you have this membership
you get it.
type, everyone has access to that. If you don't want to have the membership, you're still able to shop, but certain things are restricted to you that the other members are allowed. And it's not that you're cutting off aspects of the store.
No, because that's the other thing. I know a lot of people would be like, woo, restrictions, no.
Well, you're still keeping the business as it is.
Yeah.
You're just giving other people more privileges if they want to pay a certain monthly or yearly fee. I'd recommend yearly if that's the case.
I would as well. I got to tell you, that doesn't sound too dissimilar from the way like crowdfunding like Patreon works, where it's like, listen, you can get our content for free. We have a Patreon.
Right.
And you still get everything we make. And there's no exclusivity.
But if you want specific things, you can pay and have access to other things that other people don't have.
The way Patreon is structured, the way a lot of businesses run it, you get perks, you get benefits, you get additionals, addendums, or early access, and you're also doing it for altruistic reasons. It's not like Costco, which is a company. It's a major corporation.
Right.
So, maybe you have loyalties if like you're an employee of Costco or you know the family or something, but like by and large you're becoming a member not because you like love Costco, but because you need Costco or you like what they're selling. With a local comic book store, you like the owner, you know them. And so it's more like Patreon because you're like, no, I want to support them. I'm becoming a member to support them.
Here's the thing. I don't think a membership works at a local comic book store level only.
Okay.
I think the membership level works if it is a intercompany thing. If at any comic book store, if you want to be a part of this, you can have your membership anywhere. It's good at any comic book shop. The trouble is you're relying on just your fan base.
Yes.
Just
your community, just the area around you. But although, I gotta say, when you are in the 21st century, your audience is only as limited as your imagination. Yes, you're a comic book store, you're a brick and mortar shop, you run this corner or this radius. But if you have good word of mouth, if you have interesting perks and interesting like deals, I know that there's tons of people who do like auctions or like online sales.
Well, here's something I think that is working very well in that sort of membership area is Marvel Now.
Yes, where you pay a subscription fee to get access to a myriad of Marvel comics.
Essentially, you're just getting access to as much as you want because it's a digital subscription.
But there is a limitation. You don't get new books. You don't get like this week books.
True.
I mean, you do get them eventually, but like you don't get day and date. And the reason for that is because they don't want to compete with local comic stores.
Well, because they want to push the physical issue.
Yes.
And that makes sense for them.
Well, because they print books.
If you had essentially a wing of that, where it was just, no, you pay a higher amount to get all the new books digitally.
Right.
I think there'd be a huge market for it.
I agree. I think, yeah.
And I think that's already not already in the works, but I think that is an aspect where the memberships fee or the subscription system works. It really can push itself and sustain itself.
DC is launching their digital Marvel Now, essentially. And I think that because they ditched Diamond and because they ditched one of the other two of their own distribution houses, I think they are interested in going full digital. I think they will offer day and date new books digitally for a higher fee.
And here's the thing, if you're offering it where you're paying a subscription.
Yes,
and you have access
monthly,
to all
yearly
of it,
subscription, yeah.
Great.
Right.
If you're doing it where you are just buying the book digitally, I think that's where it becomes more of a problem because you're still paying usually a higher price than what you would get for all of these different issues on a digital subscription basis.
If I go to a comic book store and I buy the newest issue of Batman, I'm paying cover price and I get the book. That's what I'm paying for, and that's what I'm paying for access to.
Yeah.
If I work with DC's digital system, I pay a higher fee. I get not only the newest Batman, but also an entire backlog of books. And I'm, there's a lot of benefits to that if you're looking economically. Like storage, access.
I don't have to print anymore. I don't have to rely on shipping. I don't have to rely on the.
Well, as a consumer, I don't have to worry about store my books. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to research anything. I can just type it in, boom, there's the book I want. And I'm reading it right now.
Yeah.
And it costs me nothing because I'm paying a yearly fee, or at least it's nothing instantly.
Now, that can wreak havoc with local comic book stores if that's the case.
Absolutely.
And I've heard a lot of outcry about it. But at the same time, if the local comic book store is able to set up a digital online store, I've heard that that can help, but I don't have as much experience in that realm.
I will say the local comic shops, they don't have access to Comixology or DC Universe or Marvel Now.
Okay.
You can't sign up for Marvel Now through your local comic book store.
Got it.
And Comixology used to do that, but they very quickly removed that, where you could buy Comixology books through your store. And so, there were so many middlemen, it was just who's even getting paid at the end of this?
That's problematic.
They did drop it. So, at the end of the day, Amazon gets all the money. The, local comic book store gets nothing. But I do like the idea, and I think that it's not necessarily imperative that every local comic book store jump on this membership idea. I think that if your local comic book store wanted to do that, just hey, you want to be a member of this of our comic shop community? You pay this fee, you get these access to other perks. Did you have any other ideas for perks? Besides access to unsold inventory, which I do like.
I like that idea just because fine, something got returned, that goes in a special a used section essentially.
Absolutely.
But if the book is still in good condition and you don't mind paying, that's what the long boxes were there anyway when I've had this for a while. I've had 70 people rummage through it and leaf through it. It's already been handled.
Yeah, that's true.
Fine, I'll get rid of it.
That's true. And at a severely discounted rate because you're already making the money off the back end through the membership. I also like the idea, you mentioned access to stuff with a discount. You could, I don't see Diamond or any other of the distribution houses playing ball with a local comic book store.
Nor do I. And that's something where I think that really, if it's going to work, the publisher has to get on board because they have to see that there's going to be profit in it.
But I do like the idea of working through them to get discounts on other things, like expanding your inventory. I have these model kits or cards, Your member,
sort of a hobby.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's the thing is that if you're a comic book store, you're not just selling comics. Or if you are, you're out of business. You need to sell other things, and you need to cater to new merchandise. Like role-playing games.
Tons of different things. You can have game nights. You can have
and they do.
Lots of different aspects, in the hobby world, because it's a pleasure and a leisure activity. That's what you're doing.
That's right.
I like if this was going to work.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it would have to be a chain. I don't think it works for one store. I think the reason that Costco is successful is because the company supports the warehouses.
Right.
The company accepts your membership at every different store that it has. Your benefits are the same at every different store that it has.
Yeah, you are paying for the convenience of access. Because
sure.
there is a Costco in every county.
And I have a Costco near me.
Yeah.
I know some people where they live an hour and a half away.
Yeah.
And they
still come.
It's the closest one to them, and they still have a membership, and they still go to it
Yeah.
because of what it offers and what you can get for your membership.
I know a lot of comic book stores that are an hour and a half away or 5 hours away from people because of just how simply, like, you know, there just aren't enough of them. The business doesn't support a huge amount of comic book shops.
Right.
Of course, that's a revolutionary idea, the idea that, like, all comic book store, because they're all independent owners. That'd be like saying like every lemonade stand has to be owned by the same company, or like they all have to work together to be like a co-op or something.
Well, here's the thing. If every local comic book store got the offer to be bought out by the chain,
Yes.
they have the option to join it.
Like they're a
And be a
franchisee.
part of it. Exactly. Or they could remain independent if they want to.
Yeah, but they don't get access to the membership. Or they can create their own parallel membership that mirrors all the same benefits, but it just you're only benefiting the direct market as opposed to like the direct localized market as opposed to the wider.
Exactly. If you got every comic book store on board with this, I think the distributors, or
Would
not
have
the
to
distributors, the publisher
Yeah.
would probably change its mind. Being able to send merchandise back might be a negotiating point
Right.
because then
It wouldn't
you're
just be
dealing
on-
with the entire market saying this is how it's going to work or it's not going to work for you.
Returns wouldn't just be on the owner's
Right.
responsibility, which I still think is a thing you could do even at the local level.
I think it's viable.
Yeah, I think it's viable, probably. But yes, the idea of franchising out every comic shop and homogenizing it to some degree, or at the very least, like putting it under an umbrella, it gives them an actionable point because like it goes from a corporation with franchisees who are going to the negotiating table as opposed to 400 independent business owners
Right.
who are all like, make a deal with us. Oh, by the way, I run my business completely differently, like from
Than they
the
do.
other like 80 people I'm in the room.
And that's the thing is that Costco itself is a unified front.
Yeah. The only way Costco works or functions is because it is a multinational company.
Yeah.
Like the Costco model is supported by its size.
It's supported by its size, but it's supported because it stands together, essentially.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And everyone that is involved with the business understands that and accepts it and is a part of it. You don't have these people who are saying like, yeah, but my warehouse has to be like an independent, like we're going to have different rules.
Different rules, different ways of business. Of course, the other
No,
thing...
you're out in that case.
Yeah, yeah.
And Costco will not open a warehouse unless the area
Can support it. Okay, but they do their due diligence. They
they research, they
the
check
areas.
communities,
Okay.
they check to see how much people are making in those communities, they check to see how much people are spending on groceries and clothing and all the different things to see whether or not it makes sense to put a warehouse there.
Right. I'd imagine that like your local comic book store hopefully
Does the same kind
does
of
the
research.
same thing. When it's like, I'm going to open up a brick and mortar store that sells a very niche product to a very niche amount of people. You better hope there's a lot of people in that area to be able to try and sell to a percentage of a percentage.
Well, and that's the thing. It's harder to gauge what people are going to buy comics
Yes,
based
versus
on
clothes and-
demographic and economic status and, you know, just
Where you
geographic area.
are, yeah.
Trying to get however many hundreds or thousands of shops on the
only
same
hundreds.
conference call or
Yeah.
issue with that?
It's not going to work.
Exactly.
No.
There has to be essentially a board of comic book shop owners where everyone can go and talk to, but there is a small committee leading it that dictates the rules and the circumstances for everybody.
And it has to have pretty much like the same rules applied across the board, regardless of everything.
Yeah, that's how unionization
how it works.
would work. That's perfect.
And it's how you can implement concepts like an optional membership or a membership in general and the benefits that you get. Because again, like the benefits that we outlined here today are fun and cool. Do they justify that? I guess you'd have to ask anyone who has a Patreon. You know, like, does it justify it? Do the benefits justify? And like, look, like, if you're doing a good job or you put out a good face and you create a good product, you're gonna lose members. But if you're doing a good job, you will have carryover. You'll have crossover. Like you will constantly be hopefully getting more members in than out.
Right.
And
So that's hopefully every good business.
exactly. I do think there's something to be said for the optional membership across the board for like every local comic book store.
Or even every comic book store creating their own membership.
Exactly. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think that there's something there. There's something there. But
You're essentially guaranteeing more revenue to come in.
yeah, you're
without
guaranteeing it because you know you can quantify it. You can point to how many members we have, how much money each membership costs, and you got to sell the membership.
And what are the benefits of it?
Yes.
If people are not going to see that they're using their membership or that it's not really rewarding them, they're not going to keep it.
Right. The idea of this conversation was just to try and throw out some ideas.
Right.
Because I think that as far as the local comic book store is concerned, any new idea benefits because it starts a conversation and it gets the ideas flowing and hopefully allows progress to take hold. A new and radical idea is all the comic book stores in the United States have to be owned by one company and follow these set rules across the board.
Yeah, like
that's a radical
crazy
idea. That's a radical idea. And the compromise is a membership would be applied to this radical idea, but you could always just come up with your own.
Right.
Because
if that idea doesn't cotton to you,
you could always
maybe
modify
you could take
that idea.
and mold it and make it into something that is worthwhile for you.
Exactly.
Right.
Because I don't think it's feasible at this moment to be able to say, like, you gotta all unionize or get bought out.
And
I don't see anyone who's gonna do that. That's the other thing. I don't know any company that's gonna buy everybody, except maybe Amazon, and I don't want them to do that.
Well, I know a couple comic book store owners that might
be down.
Group within themselves because they're probably in the same geographic area. They know each other.
Yeah.
They might even be friends.
Yeah.
Even if they see each other as competition, it might be friendly competition.
Absolutely.
Where they could group up and do that. But I don't think you can get that across the board.
No.
But I think that it would be worse to lose your local comic book stores.
Yes.
And see it become a giant company. Even if there's security in that, I think you're losing some of the spark and some of the wonder that makes the local comic book store such a magical place to go to.
I agree. Yeah, I like the idea that each one is hopefully different from the other.
But can a membership system benefit your local comic book store? I think it can.
What do you think? Look forward to carrying on the conversation on there. Ben, thank you very much for lending your expertise and some of these new ideas to the table. And we'll see you guys next time with another episode. I am Sal.
I'm Ben.
If you like this, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and see more here at Comic Pop.